What is film? A glorified stage production, a mere thrill akin to circus acts and fairground exploits, fact or fiction, art or truth? These are just some of the many questions that plagued the period of cinema's youth. And it was these same questions that some of the greatest filmmakers in the Soviet Union's golden age of cinema sought to resolve through their work. As early as 1916, Russian filmmaker and film theorist Lev Kuleshov brought editing to the attention of his contemporaries as the key to answering these impossible questions by pointing out the effect editing had on advancing narrative in popular American films. He also postulated that it would be possible to make a film without contextual establishing shots in the traditional sense. However, he was more interested in simulating the American film style than developing his own. That he left up to his students at the State School on Cinema Art, students such as Sergei Eisenstein. I want to polarize in one fact, be it in an unexciting fact, all the passions, all the hopes in man's reach, all the things which give him reason to live, Eisenstein once wrote. If the audience could make narrative associations, as his mentor firmly believed, why not analytical ones as well? By combining seemingly unrelated images, the audience would be forced to interpret how they fit together, and in this way a sequence's movement, both graphical and narrative, would be more than just visual as Kuleshov described it, but mental as well. Shots and sequences were not independent, instead each was a piece that contributed to the larger whole. He also firmly believed that the trigger for this analysis should be grounded in the emotional response the audience was calculated to feel after viewing the sequence, or attraction. As Kuleshev's student, he was well aware of the continuity editing technique favored by almost all classic Hollywood films. He just chose to ignore it. Free from the dictation of a linear narrative, he was able to tell the story he wished to tell without rigid regard to conventional depictions of space, time, and chronology. But for all the chaotic mess that Eisenstein's films appear to be, they still contain a narrative story of sorts, albeit one the audience has to piece together themselves. Viewers of the work of Eisenstein's contemporary, Dziga Vertov, had no such reprieve. Like Eisenstein, Vertov realized the potential of montage early on, but while Eisenstein focused on its narrative capabilities, Vertov saw it as a chance to expose the film truth, or a version of the truth made clear only through the objective eye of the camera. Cinema is the realization by the film eye of that which cannot be realized in life, he wrote. The unusual flexibility of montage construction enables one to introduce into a film study any given motif, political, economic, or other. Vertov followed no pre-planned shot list or written narrative. He was determined to show real-life facts as they appeared in front of the camera at any given moment. Only in editing did he attempt to make sense of what he filmed. Vertov's approach to editing his, for lack of a better word, documentary film, Man with a Movie Camera, was unique even by today's standards. Instead of shying away from editing embellishments like freeze-framing, double exposures, or other time-space manipulating techniques in his pursuit of truth, he actively sought to include them. According to Vertov, these elements that would traditionally be considered a distraction from any possibility of a narrative or message were in fact the message themselves. Again, like Eisenstein, Vertov was relying on the implicit connections between his clips, but the juxtapositions were based on visual signs as opposed to the individual shots' emotional connotations. In true montage fashion, he ignores all concepts of a temporal relation between sequences. Shots of his wife editing the film are intercut with the scenes that she is clearly editing, and the film begins with the audience already watching it. But Vertov took montage further than just breaking from tradition. He made it into a storytelling technique. According to a theory he called the theory of intervals, by failing to match graphics between quickly cut-together frames, he was able to highlight parts of the picture that would otherwise have been overlooked, thereby focusing the audience's attention on a new truth. I make the viewer see in the manner best suited to my presentation of this or that visual phenomenon. Eventually, the active viewing required to understand and appreciate the avant-garde montage forms these directors developed proved too exhausting, and economic and social changes in the Soviet Union resulted in the end of the golden age of Soviet cinema by 1930. Still, the impact these filmmakers had on cinematic history is undeniable. From homemade videos on YouTube to summer blockbusters, montage techniques and theories pioneered by these men live on. By daring to defy conventions, they helped prove that cinema was not just an extension of the stage, but a stage in and of itself.